of 2025. I'm Nancy Carr-Smith. I'm the previous president, now turned vice president. And I'm here to turn the reins over to Mary Beth Lachek. Mary Beth works at Canada France, and she's been our vice president last year. And so we're very happy to have her take the lead for the coming year and enjoy all of the kuleana that we have. Our other officers are Victor Tom. He's our treasurer. Thank you, Victor. Michaela Bruno is our secretary now. Thank you, Michaela. I'm vice president, and Riley Smith is director, as well as Patty Cook, David Greenwell, who's our timer tonight, Chris Wong, Brian Oshijima, and who am I forgetting? Anybody? No, I think that's everybody. Lonnie Olson-Chong is not with us tonight. So that's it for me. Please help me welcome Mary Beth.
And if we could get a round of applause for Nancy for her here. There was 2 candidate forums, and so that's always a challenging one. We also want to take a moment to extend a special mahalo to Lonnie Olson-Chong for the amazing job that her and her team did for the Christmas parade. So Lonnie's not here tonight. We just got some data that suggests more than 20,000 residents and friends from all over the island were here to welcome Santa and the holidays. So that's an incredible turnout. In addition to thanking Lonnie and the parade, we also really want to thank the businesses and community partners, truckers, police, Department of Transportation, Parks and Rec, DPW, churches, clubs, and everybody who make it a really fun and memorable and safe event. So mahalo for all of that. We are streaming live on our Community Association Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel. So if you're watching us online, welcome. It can be found via our homepage, waimeatown.org. This recording is also available for later use. So if you want to go back and see what you missed, we're really happy to have you here in person as well. And equally happy to welcome the more than 300 who can log in virtually to watch most of our town meetings. So this is absolutely incredible. If you haven't already done so, we do encourage you to become a member of the Waimea Community Association. You can do this at the sign-in desk over there with Riley and Patty. You can join via our website or mailing a check to our PO box, which is on the agenda. We are all volunteers, so your membership helps pay for the hard costs of operating, and we very much appreciate your support. And mahalo for the turnout tonight. This is an incredible turnout. We are also incredibly grateful to be here at the WM Keck Observatory. So we appreciate their willingness to let us use this space. And I'd like to welcome Keck Director Rich Matsuda to say a couple of words, including a few housekeeping items.
Literally a couple words. Just we're super happy to have the community in here anytime. So glad you're here and happy to be hosting for the important discussions tonight. Just housekeeping, if there's any sort of fire alarm or the power goes out or anything, just exit out through the doors you came in and gather in the parking lot, and we'll give you further instructions. Hopefully everything goes smooth. If you need to use the restroom, then out through those doors, took a U-turn, the bathroom is behind this wall, right down here. So go down the hallway and to your right. And I just wanted to close with thanking Nancy for her service, leading the Waimea Community Association. I will bring you a day. I'll come to you. And congratulations and thank you to Mary Beth for taking on the role of president. So thank you, Mary Beth.
Thanks, Rich. For those who are presenting tonight, I would like you to keep your eyes on David Greenwell right there. David is our timer this evening, so mahalo, David. And we also want to thank our tech support over here from the combination of CAC and CFHT. So we have Keith, and Jordan from from Keck, Creighton from CFHT. So they are making sure that we are live streaming tonight and making sure that everybody can see everything. So mahalo, guys. So as we continue in the meeting, we want to continue our tradition of honoring, respecting the various faith groups that make up our wonderful community. So tonight we are welcoming Pastor Sioni from New Hope Christian Fellowship. Thank you, Pastor, for being up here. Come on up for our opening fillet.
Well, I'm so honored to be invited to come to do this. You know, I remember this town when there was cattlemen's and people were still riding their horses to, you know, yeah, I might look young, but I'm old, but anyway. What a, you know, an honor to be here, you know, and I know our community has been growing so much. And I want to thank all of you, you know, the leaders in this community for coming over and participating and honoring, you know, working together for our community. So let's pull it and start this meeting. Father in heaven, we are so grateful and thankful for the breath of life. Lord, all our plans, we know that we can plan all things, but ultimately you give us life and you give us your blessing. So we ask your blessing tonight as the community come together. And I pray for all the leaders that you put in place, Lord, because all authorities given by you, Lord. So I pray your blessing on them. Give them wisdom to deal with all the issues that we deal with this community. And also, Lord, I pray for safety for everyone and just be with us. And most of all, Lord, I pray that your blessing of your spirit and your love be infill our community so we can love one another and work together. We give you all praise, glory, and honor. In the name of our Lord and the name of Jesus. Amen. God bless you guys.
Hello, Pastor. Next up, we have an update from our Waimea Police Department, Captain Roy Valera, as well as Community Policing Officer Justin Banting. Mahalo to you for your good work to keep our community safe. I know it's been a very busy time of year, and so we greatly appreciate you and your efforts.
All right, everybody, let me be the first to say, Happy New Year. Well, I gotta make it quick because the captain gonna take most of the time. Anyway, our newsletter went out. I did have a sign up sheet up front. Please sign up if you wanna subscribe to our newsletter. Coffee with a Cop is gonna be next Friday at Waikoloa Village. For all the coffee companies. So please come by, come support us, hang out with us. And lastly, we didn't have a meeting in December, but thank you in November for the first responders. That was really awesome. I got a certificate, that was pretty cool. Anyway, here's the boring stuff. So South Koala crime data, we had 5 assaults in December. We had 2 burglaries, 6 property damage. We had 11 theft cases. The only thing that stands out, all 11 were unsecured or unlocked in some way. So we gotta secure our valuables, yeah. We did have 3 drug investigations, which was all involving marijuana, okay, nothing else. And we had 2 major incidents. So we didn't have any stolen vehicles or any robberies. But I'm gonna hand it over to Officer De La Cruz. He has the traffic stats for you guys.
Again, Happy New Year. I'll make this quick so David doesn't get out of there. Again, some more statistics. This is for the month of December. Traffic report, we had a total of 601 citations for the month of December. 10 of those were child restraints. So we're pretty focused on child restraints and seatbelts. We did have 40 reckless driver complaints throughout the South Koala district. We had 9 major traffic accidents involving injuries or major damage. 9 compared to just 3 last year in December. So there was more traffic accidents. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, but we did start the new year with 1 fatality already. So let's hope we have a safe January.
Thank you, Kui. Again, they already said it, but Happy New Year on behalf of the police department and Police Chief Ben Moskowitz. You know, we talk about the different crimes that occurred in some of our traffic statistics. The main takeaways for both sides, and Justin mentioned it, is if you can pick up and carry something away, so can a thief. So you gotta be able to manage your property, okay? Unfortunately, criminals are out there looking for the opportunity to commit crime. So you have to be very cognizant of the fact that if you leave something out, somebody could take it. If you leave your car unlocked, somebody can enter your car and take something from your car or take your car itself. Kui talked about some traffic stats and the major accidents that we had. It always goes back to driving with Aloha. Everybody needs to get somewhere quickly. We get that. But you gotta do it safely, following our traffic laws. Because, you know, we all want you to get from point A to point B safely. And that's why we're out there enforcing traffic, to remind those who need the reminder. Apparently 601 of those people did need some sort of a reminder. But we're there to remind you that every life is important and we want everybody to be safe. So with that, we do have some upcoming activities that Justin mentioned, and Kui also mentioned some citations for child safety seat. We are gonna be having a child safety seat checkpoint coming up in January. And we're gonna put that out on our social media as well as through our newsletter. So if those of you who are new parents and you need some help in correctly installing your child safety seat, we'll have that checkpoint. I believe it's gonna be around Church Road, and we'll send more information out about that. So with that, we thank you very much. I don't see any cards up yet, so I think I got another 20 minutes. Was that right? I see a question here, yes.
This Christmas, New Year's Eve seems to be more illegal fireworks in Waimea than ever. And I wonder why you guys aren't stopping them.
We have received a bunch of calls. I don't have an exact number for you, but in reading our daily bulletin, I did see that there were a lot of calls regarding illegal fireworks. And for the calls that we did receive, we did respond, and either we located the responsible people or we weren't able to locate them. So those were the two dispositions. You know, we also got calls of the fireworks being a little bit louder this year and a lot of more mortar shells or loud explosions. And I had the opportunity to talk to several community members about those as well. And, you know, whatever comes in illegally, how they come in and who's bringing them in, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. I did notice myself that there were a whole bunch of louder mortar type aerial fireworks this year. And I don't know if that was just the trend or that was what was able to be sneaked in to our community. Luckily, I don't recall any reports of any injuries here. Unfortunately, as most of you know, it did occur on Oahu. Very, very devastating and very unfortunate for those families over there. But yes, we did receive a lot of calls about illegal fireworks. Thank you. Yes, last question.
So you received a lot of those calls regarding the fireworks. When the aerials go up, it's pretty simple. The landmark has been set. When the aerials go up and they explode, they do it not only one time, they do it repetitively. So it's almost appalling that there isn't more enforcement to trace that. Like you park, when you guys park to enforce traffic. The infraction happens as it passes you by, right? So in this case, you'd be mobile. And when you see an aerial go up, which is about 100, 200 feet, you know, it's almost guaranteed you're gonna drive up. And you're gonna know where that came from. Because the cars know, you guys' cars are trucks and everything, so it's not like before, where I see a blue and white or something was really evident that this is a police officer rode by, so everybody can hide stuff. I think everybody's kind of getting a little bit arrogant in the way that they're conducting their popping barrels and stuff, but sure would like to see a more of an effort of surveillance you know, during these kind of times, because the aerial will give you the landmark, you know, with all the technology we have, whether it be Google Earth or other things and stuff like that, but, I noticed that there's a heavy focus on traffic enforcement. Homeless, criminal property damage, and criminal property trespassing of the homeless. What is you guys' 2025 protocol to manage between Merriman's and Fish and a Hog? Because there's a lot of different homeless coming in more numbers out of corner that I've been seeing, and they travel on the trail along the river. And so they get sight unseen. But they know exactly how to move and watch them. We've been watching them for 2 years now, and it's getting worse. So the guys that come from Target and Kona, down at the old airport, I see a lot of them that I see down there, I see them up there now. 16 I found that weren't here maybe 120 days ago. So if you guys can, please, I mean, maybe strategize as to how you can help with those two things, because public safety issue is not only just traffic. I do appreciate the things you guys do. The mayor and administration has to give you guys the tools to be able to be successful at achieving those goals, especially on a state level with grants and other things. Thank you, brothers, what you guys do.
Thank you. If I may reply, when we identify new individuals who are homeless within the district, we do go out and we approach them, we offer them services. We do have existing contracts with Hope Services on the Big Island, and Hope Services comes out and does outreach for them. So, you also have to understand some of these people don't want help. So we still try and make the effort to offer them, housing or medical attention or food. We're very grateful that there are organizations in our community that do food feeding services. So we don't just turn a blind eye to them. We try to address them and try to offer them some help.
Right. Yeah. And it's not only just the fact that I come from extreme compassion when it comes to dealing with human beings. So I understand that aspect of it. But the presence, sometimes even on foot or like side by sides and stuff, just in a town court, if there are one or two officers buzzing back and forth, you can move a lot faster in a Polaris side by side than a F-250 or F-150 or Dodge, Half-Ton or whatever, but maybe that might be something to kind of look at. Like when they did Waikiki with the bikes, and even in Kailua, Honolulu, they did with bicycle patrol and stuff. Of course, the weather up here, we don't want to have to ride bicycle as police officers in our weather, but maybe just something to kind of consider. I understand what you're talking about, the outreach and stuff, but the reality is like on Oahu, when the rancher on North Shore was shot and killed, we have a reactive protocol rather than a proactive protocol sometimes. So preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. So if you can incorporate preparing for the worst, but then hoping for the best is actually, helping to feed these people and get outreach and counseling and stuff. But the violence aspect is real. They can go from 0 to 100 right now. So, I mean, when it comes to my family and stuff, we're educated along those lines, and we're going to protect each other when we have to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the concern. We can address some of those questions, I think, a little bit later there as well. And if you have additional questions for our officers, then feel free to ask them afterwards. They're not going anywhere, I promise. And if they are, we know where their office is, right? So we apologize. We had planned on having a cordless mic to be able to walk around with questions. However, unfortunately, the cordless mics are not healthy today. So our friends at CAC are going to work on mics for the next time. So right now we're going to move onward to our community announcements. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. And there is a lot going on in Waimea in general, but particularly to start off the year. So as we get the screen share here up, I'm just gonna lead off. You'll see the flyer here in a minute. For those who haven't heard, the Mahu Kona Beach Park will be closed until further notice as of Monday of this week, January 6th. For those interested in providing input and vision, thank you guys, for the Mahu Kona Pavilion restoration, you're invited to attend a meeting hosted by Malama Mahu Kona on Saturday, January 18th at 10 o'clock at the Kahala Judiciary Building. Slide, please. All right, this one has a lot of words, but you can see all of these on our Facebook page as well. The Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary has kicked off their seasonal programming on Tuesday of this week. They will have staff and volunteers on site every Tuesday morning from 9 to noon through March 25th, talking about humpback whales. The sessions also include a 45-minute movie on whales from 11:30 to 11:10 a.m. 10:30 to 11:10 a.m. Next slide. Keep Puako Beautiful, Malama Hawaii Community Cleanup at Spencer Beach Park this Saturday, so January 11th, from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Volunteers can sign up at keeppuakobeautiful.com, or you can scan this QR code. The group involves community volunteers of all ages in picking up trash that gets weighed and recycling it to protect our beaches, reefs, and public safety. Check out their website to learn more, including their next event on Sunday, February 2nd at keeppuakobeautiful.com. Details on that to follow. Next slide. Free Narcan giveaway this Saturday at Waimea KTA from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or while supplies last. If you can't make it during those hours, you can now always pick up Narcan at Tutu's house during their regular hours. Slide. The Prince Dance Institute spring registration is now open with classes beginning on January 13th. Next slide. All right, the State of Hawaii Commission on Water Resource Management invites the public to a meeting on Thursday, January 16th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the Kohala Intergenerational Center at Kamehameha Park. The commission will share their role in managing and regulating water resources in Kohala. Slide. The Cherry Blossom Festival is closer than we think. The 32nd Annual Cherry Blossom Festival will be held on Saturday, February 1st from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. all across Waimea. We will post more information on the Community Association Facebook page with maps and all of those details closer to the event. Slide. In honor of Cherry Blossom Festival occurring the same day on February 1st, the monthly art classes at the Thelma Parker Library will focus on cherry blossom haiku and watercolor. Drop in the library between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. or while supplies last to write your own haiku and then illustrate the poem in watercolor. Guidance will be provided by the Waimea Arts Council. Next slide. All right, the Vili Vili Festival, sorry, I realized I don't have a note on this one, that's on me. The Vili Vili Festival is going to be occurring on February 8th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is an educational event that is free, that is in Waikoloa. It's free to attend. Silent auction, hands-on workshops, and inspiring classes. Slide. Lastly, scholarship applications at the Hawaii Community Foundation are now open through February 28th. With one form, you are eligible for all of the scholarships offered via the Community Foundation. This includes the Richard Smart Scholarship, which is funded by Parker Ranch Foundation Trust for students living in the Waimea area. $150,000 is awarded by the Smart Scholarship annually in $5,000 increments. So please fill out this form if you are interested in any scholarships through Hawaii Community Foundation. And so that's the end of our community spotlight for now. We're going to move to our nonprofit spotlight. So that's our next PowerPoint. So as you know, we spotlight a local nonprofit every month, and we pass the basket and collect donations for the organization. So please be aware a basket will come around as soon as the presentation is complete. I believe they also brought with them some envelopes that are going to be on the front desk if you want to grab them on your way out. Tonight, we would like to support the efforts of the Hawai'i Island 4-H Equine Council. With us tonight is Fern White and her team to share more about the hui.
Thank you so much for having us and inviting us here. I brought a few of my helpers. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Hawaii County 4-H Equine Council. Many of you may already know that 4-H is a youth development organization that is nationwide and actually now global. And it's not just about horses, it's not just livestock. They do have other projects. But here with on the Big Island, Hawaii County, we have our council, and they also have a large livestock council. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about the 3 4-H clubs that make up the Equine Council. And that is the East Hawaii Ranchers. They have a club in Hilo, on Hilo side. And then Hamakua Clovers, they have a horse project club there. And then Hui Hanaya Huhu. And would you guys stand up, please, our members? So we have 4 members here. And I think they have a logo on the back. Next slide, please. So, Hui Hanaya Huhu is a club that has members from Waimea and Kohala, so North and South Kohala, okay? So, there are a few things that our club members always do, and we're gonna start it off like that. So if you can come on up. So we have Talia Envoy here. She's a junior member, so that's ages, help me, 9 to 13, thank you. Ruby Richards, and she's a beginner member, that's ages 8 and 9 and under actually, 8 and 9, thank you. And also AR Richards, who is a beginner member. So members are defined by the age group, age divisions. So AR is in the beginner member in that age group, and also Toby Ongoy, Talia's younger brother. They actually were, I kind of pulled them away from a goat tying clinic. So we kind of double booked tonight. We have a national recognized clinician here helping these kids, so we kind of pulled them away a little bit. But they're gonna provide the pledge for us. This is our 4-H pledge, and those 4 H's, that's what they stand for, and we're gonna turn it over to them.
My heart to loyalty, my heart to service, and my health to better live. For my club, my community, my country, and my life.
You can see up on the slide there about how the head is all about thinking and planning and reasoning. And Ruby's got a statement about that. So Ruby, could you step forward, please, and tell us a little bit about head?
I use my head for.
Come on.
I use my head for to win me a buckle for state champion.
Yes.
And doing horsemanship and naming them. I use my heart for training for my horse every day or almost every day and loving on him. And for being in 4-H, I've learned how to care for my horse and how to be organized and all those kind of stuff that we learn. I use my hands to help me with my 4-H project that happens every year. I needed to work it, train it, to be able to walk it without any halter or anything besides your hands. I use my health to check if my land was sick or not, and I help and I checked if my horse had rocks inside his shoes. So I had to pick it if there is. And I organize myself and eat good food and
Thank you. So anybody who knows me, I'm about having kids perform. Thank you, guys. So if you could do the next slide. Oh, we lost the slide. So we have 3 goals this year in our club. That's for our members to gain knowledge and skills for safe, responsible horsemanship and livestock handling. We want our club members to interact with the horses to increase their confidence, their skills. That's why they're up here, even though they wouldn't have volunteered. And then club members plan and host one community event. So if you go to the next slide. So we do quite a few community events. Each one of our members actually plans their own community event that they bring along their network with. And then we also have our club. We do our community events. And one that we just happen to have a photo of is we help to restore, condition, and clean the artifacts at the Paniolo Preservation Society right down the road. It ties into their work for their cleaning their own gear. And so they're applying those skills and then doing something super good, because I'm pretty sure that organization doesn't have a load of people waiting to clean all the tap and take care of the artifacts. So tonight, I think I only have about a minute left. Is that correct?
Less than.
Less than, okay, I'm good with less than. And then, so there are gonna be envelopes, so I know that you guys do a great thing, and I really wasn't familiar with how there would be a calabash, so a calamai on that. But we host 2 horse shows here. The horse project 4-H was revived after 30 years not being alive. And so another gal and I actually brought it back together, a gal on Oahu, her name is Debbie Aguirre. So we host the state show on our island every other year. So that this year it's back with us. And then this is gonna be our 4th county show that we host. So in that, there are expenses. There's an envelope with a sponsor form and everything. That's the envelope that you were talking about. There's a cover letter and a form. If you'd like to, we'd love you to take a look at it. Whether you choose to do something in the future or you have someone else you can hand it off to, that would be really, really super. We'd appreciate it a ton. And then also our display board will be there for you to go take a look at. And then are there questions? You want to ask us any questions?
Sorry, I'm kind of rushed. Oh, I gotcha.
Okay, thanks. Great.
And your 4-H club members who, excellent public speaking, guys. It's a skill, it's incredible. Yes, Patty. If we want to do a check, could we make it payable, or is it just easier to grab the envelope?
It's actually easy to grab the envelope. In here, there is a payable to. It is to the Hawaii County. So it's highly micromanaged because it's part of the University of Hawaii and et cetera. So the payable is to I'm gonna get it here. Yeah, Hawaii County 4-H Equine Horse Council. Hawaii County 4-H Equine Horse Council. I think we actually had it up on the first slide.
And I'll just reiterate, if you don't remember that name, please grab an envelope on the way out.
Yes.
And so mahalo so much, Fern. I'm apologizing for taking you from your goats, but thank you. So that's what she was double booked tonight. All right, so
Thank you guys so much.
thank you. Thanks, guys. So from here on, I'm gonna turn it over to Patty Cook, who will introduce tonight's speakers. So we have 4 speakers. And take it away, Patty.
We can unhook the mic, isn't that great? Thank you for being here. This is quite fabulous turnout and encouraging both, because these are challenging times where there's tremendous transition occurring nationally and locally. So we're really grateful to have our electeds here tonight to talk about the transition that they're going to be leading us through. So first off, I wanted to mention that community association is very committed to being respectful of all of our guests and each other. So listening and learning and being kind is part of our behavior tonight, please. And so moving on, with transition in mind, we have a new county council representative for District 9. District 9 is North and South Kohala. So with us tonight is James Eustace, who many of us know. He might look young, but he's actually quite old. But this job is gonna make it better. James, the bad news is he only has 5 minutes, and then there will be time for Q&A. Only 5 minutes. It's really fast. Thank you, James.
Hey, aloha kako. Good to see everyone here. Happy New Year. Just a quick update. I'm just gonna go through a couple of slides here, and present some, transition as Patty was saying at the county level. And then my colleague, Councilmember Kimball, will kind of talk about what's happening more at the national level, which is a little surprise for you with that, what's going on there. So if you go to the next slide, please. So just a couple of things here, about the council, talk a little appointees, district priorities, a lot of stuff that I've heard over the past year, and a call to action for you and the help that I need and our state legislators need your help in getting involved in the community. So I'll touch on that and there's some contact information. Next slide, please. So District 9 is a unique community. We have a lot of special, small communities, large communities across the district. So it really spans North and South Kohala. Communities of Waimea, Waikiki, Waikoloa, Puako, Waiha'i, Kapa'au, Hawi, Halaula, Ni'oli'i, so all the way up Pololu Valley, right? And so most of Waimea. Here we have just a snapshot of the island and the Hawai'i Council and all of your representatives on the Hawai'i Council. So kind of on clockwise there, representation for each of our districts. And so as you can kind of see, most of these faces you've probably seen and names you're familiar with. There are 2 new members on the council, myself included, and Fresh Onishi or Dennis Onishi, who represents one of the hero districts there. Next slide, please. And then, of course, as you're all aware, we have a new mayor as administrator for the council, Mayor Kimo Alameda, and then his managing director, Bill Brahante of Waimea here, and Mayor Nishimoto. And so if you go to the next slide, this is something that the council just went through here with appointments from the mayor. And Bill Brahante was one of those appointees as well. And these 8 individuals on the screen were 8 appointees for different departments within our county government here at the administrative level. So all of these came before, just on Tuesday, before the county council to share their thoughts with us, have the mayor introduce them to the council, and then that was at our committee level. And then so in 2 weeks' time, they'll be officially confirmed or whatnot in front of council. So in 2 weeks, if you have any thoughts, testimony, this would be the time to provide it from the community. If you know these individuals, there are, and I can always share information on their bios and what they provide the community and those particular offices there. Next slide, please. And so just a couple of things on, my priorities, your priorities, the district priorities here. I won't go into the depth too much of all of these, but these are things that are really important for me in the community here. They range on a lot of different things and touch on all different aspects of the community. So from infrastructure, this is a partnership that has to be done with our state parties as well, but we have our roads in our community that we need to maintain from the county level. We have, ongoing conversations about energy and water. And water is a really important piece here in Waimea. There's a community meeting coming up in a couple weeks that's going to dive specifically into water and water infrastructure here in Waimea. That'll be on the 22nd. So I look forward to seeing you there as well at the Kilu Town Hall. Other topics include, resilience, community resilience. 1 minute, all right. But housing, just one piece I want to touch on housing quickly here. I did step forward to join my fellow council members, Cherry Nava, Ashley Kirkowitz, and Jennifer Kagiwara on an ad hoc committee on housing. So for the next 6 to 7 months, we're gonna be diving really into depth with Office of Housing and Community Development. Really, look at Chapter 11, really talk about, challenges and changes that we need to make going forward. Next slide, please. And this is where I'm looking for help from you. A lot of you helped me get to this place, and I'm honored to represent you on the county council and the communities of North and South Kohala. But I'm looking for your support as well. And there's a lot that you can do. A lot of it's from volunteering in your community groups that you're passionate about and sharing how you need support from the county level, as well as, serving on a board and commission, right? There are particular ones that represent this council district, as well as ones abroad. So if you have a, particular skill set, you want to step forward, I'm happy to have these conversations with you and find an opportunity to support our community going forward. And then, of course, attending these meetings and being a part of these conversations is really important. Asking those questions and then really sharing them and all back and forth. So with that, I'll go to the next slide. And just some contact information here. The QR code just goes to a link tree. From there, you can sign up to my Council 9 district newsletter, as well as some information about projects here in the district. There was, for example, an final environmental assessment released for the Waikoloa roundabout. So you can kind of see some information on that. I put that on my link tree, as well as some other documentation related to wastewater and other things I'll try and put up on that space as well, but I want to share that information out, that you're aware of that, and happy to have kind of those in-depth conversations too. With that, I got my POW sign, so, yeah, got the book. Sure.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Number one up there was, roads, infrastructure, water, et cetera. Is there any money in the county to do any of this stuff?
Might want to repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was, does the county have money to kind of go after some of these large scale infrastructure projects? And that is a big challenge, right? A lot of these infrastructure projects, and the county is really, you know, putting a lot of its bond money forward for the HELO wastewater treatment facility. So a lot of our bond money is going towards that right now. And that's gonna be a long-term sort of project. You're looking at $300 million now. And that price is gonna go up a little bit more, you know, looking maybe at 700 million kind of going forward. But those conversations are happening with other council members. Ashley Kirkowitz is looking at wastewater, asking for $1 billion. So there are these big numbers that we don't necessarily have those dollars for, that we have to float a bond for. We do have somewhat of a healthy fund balance right now. So there might be some, you know, assets that we can go for kind of on a smaller scale. And we look at water in Waimea. The reservoir is really one of those key attributes that I need to talk about and keep pushing forward. Our residents in HELCO, they need support kind of converting their systems and moving that forward too. So it's really gonna have to be a partnership with our state parties as well as with our federal delegation too, to kind of really match the needs we have for the community.
Anybody else?
If we ask questions,
Yes.
people to stand up and.
Yeah, please do stand if you would, and then so we can hear you.
Hello, my name is Vanna, nobody's there. I was gonna ask you, when are you gonna start the Kohala Hospital?
The question was, when are you gonna start the Kohala Hospital?
So I'm gonna punt that one to my state colleagues here, because that is a state hospital. Wait, don't, yeah, I'm sorry, you said you're not someone important, you are very important. You're very important to the community here, so please don't say that. Yep. Well, we'll save that question for our state senator and state rep, that's okay. Sorry, Tim, sorry, David.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mark,
Hi, Mark Gordon.
thank you.
Can you hear me? If
Yes.
they want to be louder.
And I can repeat it too.
Mike, loud voice. James, can you share a little bit, as we all know, fentanyl's a big issue, and opioid overdose. So you might want to share a little bit, right? We know that Oahu, the county of Oahu has fentanyl required
Right.
in all restaurants and bars. And
Yep.
maybe you can share with the group a little bit, you know, about maybe using theirs as a template.
Thank you, Mark. So the question is about fentanyl and kind of how we can get Narcan out in the community, really combat the opioid, you know, epidemic. I don't know if you saw one of the slides up there on one of the community events that's coming up about Narcan distribution. This is something that's passionate to me about this resource and the safety net we have for the community and the opportunity that you can save a life and, you know, just someone you're passing by in the, you know, in the grocery store or the park and whatnot. Kimo, our mayor, is also very passionate about the Hawai'i Island Fentanyl Task Force and led that effort. So I know this is something that is circulating in the administration as well. The template that Oahu and the Honolulu City Council put forward is something that I'm looking at to bring here to Hawai'i County, so that our bars and nightclubs also have this kind of level of safety net in their spaces, those commercial aspects. But I think we have a greater asset in the community here in Hawai'i Island with the Fentanyl Task Force that a number of you are part of. As that resource, as that training resource for these businesses, so they're not just left to the wind and how do we get things done, but the Fentanyl Task Force could be that asset to support them. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
For all the years that he was president and held the time down very tight, now he has to live with it. It's painful. We're really thrilled to have Heather Kimball with us, as you see from the frosty east. I think she's shivering. Heather, thank you for joining us. She's the chairman now of the State Association of Counties and was invited to a national meeting with both people in the White House and Congress to talk about policy going forward. Heather, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Yes, joining you here from very, very cold Washington, D.C. It is about 20 degrees here, feels like about 10 degrees. And I did spend 4 hours in that temperature last night so that I could pay my respects to President Carter as he laid in state here at the Capitol. But as Patty mentioned, I am here representing the Hawaii State Association of Counties as their president, and we were invited to DC for a briefing on how the new federal administration may affect us here in the counties. I will tell you the main word of the day is uncertainty. There is a lot of many things that remain to be seen in terms of how they may unfold. But having had detailed conversations with Representative Case, Representative Takuda, and Brian Schatz's office, what I can say is, well, there is not cause for optimism. There also isn't cause for great grave concern, and that I can't come away from the meetings here feeling like, you know, the way that government works is slow, and sometimes that is a good thing. So what we can expect is that most of the funding that was available for the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, that was largely for infrastructure, and that has been allocated to a large degree. Hawaii has done very well with bringing in the Infrastructure and Jobs Act funding to the state. The second package that was passed during the Biden administration, the Inflation Reduction Act, which had a number of environmental and climate change related funding programs in it, has not all been allocated, and there is some concern that there will be rollbacks there. However, it is generally expected that we will not see 100% rollback of some of those programs. Those in the business community and the private sector have made great strides in, for example, developing electric vehicles, charging stations. The new administration won't be able to just pull the rug out from those programs without causing distress across the country, and it's probably going to be very unpopular. There is an expectation that there will be some funding cuts within the social services area and environmental protections area. One of the things that was recommended to us by Rep. Takuda is that we at the county and my state friends there, hi Tim, hi David, suggested that we do a fiscal vulnerability study with respect to federal funds coming into our various jurisdictions. So that is something I'll be talking with our finance director about. Lastly, I will say that there is an expectation that a lot of reforms are going to be presented early in terms of the budget reconciliation package, which would be coming from the future president's office. I am told that it's pretty clear that that is going to be dead on arrival. So what you can expect is more congressional gridlock as they try to work out how the budget will proceed forward. But there has been reporting in the media, of course, that there's this omnibus package that the incoming president will present forward, but there's not obviously support from the Democratic side, but there's not support either from the full Republican Congress members to see that through. What I will say is finally that there are some probability that we will see some lifting of various restrictions relating to agency rules. That comes from a recent Supreme Court decision that said that federal agencies cannot establish rules that go beyond the scope of the law. So what that might mean is a temporary lifting of various restrictions, which could be considered a good thing in some cases. But that means that you will see more detailed legislation coming out of Congress because they're going to have to account for everything that they want the departments to do. So it's been a good visit up here. I am very much looking forward to coming home, thawing out, and I hope all of you are doing well. And I again wish you the best in the new year and happy to take any questions. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you. Any questions for Heather? I think most of you know that we're one of the few districts that actually have two county council members because of the way that this districting is. So we have two with Heather and James. Yes, I saw a hand go up here.
The infrastructure bill in 2021, $86-87 trillion. What happened to that money for the state of Hawaii?
Okay, I don't think we can answer that right now. That's way too big a question. Heather, do you want to take a shot?
Yeah, I can just briefly say that, I talked a little bit about that with Representative Case. He's not our representative here in Hawaii County, but he does work very close with us. He represents primarily, Honolulu. He will be offering a fiscal, overview in Honolulu on January 18th, and I can send that to Mary Beth, so that she can share that out in case people would like to participate. But particularly the Infrastructure and Jobs Act has mostly been encumbered, which means that it's somehow contracted. It may not have been spent yet, but most of that has been encumbered. And overall, compared to other states across the country, Hawaii has done very well in bringing in that funding and securing it for projects in Hawaii.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, so. Anyone else got a question? I do have one, Heather, if I might ask you, and actually for James as well. This has to do with the general plan. There's been kind of a push in the last week or three to try to convince all of the powers that be, but basically the council, to remove language from the draft general plan having to do with climate change. The suggestion that we're hearing is if that happens, our ability as a county to apply for federal funding, like FEMA money in the event of a storm or flooding, or fires, goes away. That we have to have language in the general plan that's talking about a consideration being given to climate change. It isn't the final arbiter, but it is a consideration. Could we ask you if you have any thoughts about that real quick?
I can jump in first and then let James respond, of course. You know, as many of you may know, but some of you may not, my background actually is as a climate scientist. And so I have a great deal of disagreement with folks that believe we should take that out of the general plan. The science is there, the information is real, and we do need to be prepared. That has been a significant discussion here among the counties, especially with respect to disaster preparedness, FEMA spending. I would say though, from my experience, even though the general plan does have the force of law, I don't think that it is the document that FEMA or other federal agencies refer to when thinking about funding. It's actually going to be more important for us to have references to climate change, and particularly the distinct impacts of climate change, sea level rise, more frequent storm events, in our multi-hazard mitigation plan, which is also underway. If we do not have strategies in place documented in the multi-hazard mitigation plan, which is due every 5 years, that could put us at risk of not receiving funding. So while I hear the concern and I agree, I do think it should remain in the general plan to refer to this topic and talk about building resilience. I don't think it's going to present that risk. James, to you.
No, thanks, Councilmember. You kind of answered most of the concern there and the thoughts there. The multi-hazard mitigation plan is really that key backbone. A lot of these plans are going to be talking to each other as well, but it's also about building that resilience. I mean, what we're seeing in the news, you know, what we experienced last year on Maui, what we're seeing on the news in Los Angeles, right? A lot of this thought needs to go on these plans about how do we build resilient communities. And so this documentation, these visions, these goals need to kind of be laid out in these plans. I mean, we're still operating on the 2005 general plan. So a lot of our discussion and a lot of the way we envision our communities doesn't have these concerns or these thoughts laid out in there as clearly as we kind of understand more now. So it's kind of important to have that sort of reference in there and the discussion and the debate going on in those documents. And with that, I would just encourage people to, you know, follow the general plan. You know, it's up before the planning commissions right now, the Windward Planning Commission and the Leeward Planning Commission. So they're going through the process there. You can still follow it through there and track and provide comments and testify. And then I think in the summertime, in the summer months, they'll come before the council, the general plan document itself, and then we'll be kind of going through it piece at a time. So I'll leave that there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather, for joining us, and travel safe.
Thank you.
Now we're on to our state policymakers. Representative Tarnas has a lot to share because there's been dramatic change in the State House. Thank you. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and I appreciate the invitation to present to you. I work for you. I'm the state representative for North Kohala and South Kohala. And I do a better job when I hear from you. So I do appreciate you being here tonight, so I can tell you my thoughts about upcoming session, and I ask for your advice as we go forward. This is a brief presentation I'll run through here to give you, go ahead and take the next slide. Introduce you to the new House organization. We have a new House leadership team. If you go from left to right, that's the majority leader, Representative Sean Quinlan. He's from North Shore, Oahu. Next person there from the left is majority floor leader, G. Morikawa, who is from Kauai. And then we have Speaker Nadine Nakamura from Kauai, first woman Speaker of the House. Yay! Yes, I agree. Thank you for the applause. Next to her is Vice Speaker Linda Ichiyama from Oahu. And then the next person there is our Majority Caucus Leader, Representative Chris Todd, who is from Hawai'i Island. He's from the Hilo side. So this is our new House leadership. It's a new collaborative leadership style that Representative Nakamura brings to the House organization. She's a planner by profession, as I am, so we have a lot in common. And we have really good expertise subject matter expertise among the other members here. Sean Quinlan previously was chair of the tourism committee. G. Morikawa, she's had a number of committee chairs over the years, but she's been majority floor leader for some years, so she's very experienced. Nadine Nakamura is an expert in housing issues, land use planning, so very experienced in that area. Linda Ichiyama, former chair of Water and Land Committee, a very talented attorney, knows a lot about condo law and others. And then Chris Todd, formerly transportation chair, and he's a football coach too. So he knows a lot about how to build teams, and that's what he'll be doing as the caucus leader. Next slide, please. I'm going to briefly go through. These are all the different House committees. I just want to have them up here. These are available on the legislature's website, so you can see. But I wanted you to see who the leadership and membership are of all these different committees. And you'll see the members from Hawai'i Island. Finance Committee, first one there, we've got a couple of Hawai'i Island members, Matthias Cush and Sue Lee Loy. And so they're Hawai'i Island members, so call them, not just the chair and vice chair, but contact the Hawai'i Island members of these committees. There's only 8 of us, and so we spread out among a lot of committees, so we're not on all the committees, but when we are, please, they're the ones you contact. You can see the chairs and vice chair on the left side there for each of our committees, and the members are on the right. Next is the committee, Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. I am the chair of that committee. Mahina Poipoi is my vice chair. She's from Maui. And on the committee, another Hawai'i Island member is Chris Todd and Kirsten Kahaloa. Next slide, please. We have Committee on Commerce and Consumer, Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. And on that, Hawai'i Island member Gregor Iligan and Nicole Lowen. House Committee on Education. And if I can't read really well from the side here, so if I miss one of the Hawai'i Island members, just speak up, please. Janae Capella, it was a Kona rep and Ka'u rep that is on this committee, and please contact her on education matters. Let's go to the next one. Committee on Higher Education, and for this one here, Janae Capella also serves on this committee. House Committee on Health, and on this committee, we have Sue Lee Loy. Yes, thank you. Thanks. It is kind of tough to read from the side here. Next slide, please. House Committee on Human Services and Homelessness. Actually, since I'm not on the camera here, let me move over. The House Committee on Human Services and Homelessness, and Sue Lee Loy is on this one as well. Next one, House Committee on Housing, and on this one, we do not have a Hawai'i Island member. And so, contact the chair and vice chair. Luke Evslin is from Kauai, a former council member over there. And Tyson Miyake is from Maui, so very knowledgeable of neighbor island concerns as well. Let's go to the next slide, please. House Committee on Transportation. On this, the same, contact the chairs, chair and vice chair on this one. We don't have a Hawai'i Island member on this transportation committee. Water and Land. I asked to be chair of Water and Land because that is my expertise as an environmental planner. The leadership said, no, please continue as Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. We need an experienced hand at the head of that. So I agreed to do Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. I will do my best to assist Water and Land as well in their work. We do not have a Hawai'i Island member on this committee, but many of those bills that go to Water and Land then come to me next in the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. Next slide, please. Committee on Public Safety. On this one, again, we don't have a Hawai'i Island member, but most of the bills that go through public safety also then come to Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs as well. So I'll have a hand in those. Energy and Environmental Protection is chaired by a Hawai'i Island member, Nicole Lowen, who's a Kona representative, and Kirsten Kahaloa and Matthias Cush serve on that committee. Please, next slide. Agriculture and Food Systems, chaired by Kirsten Kahaloa and Vice Chair Matthias Cush, both Big Island members. So that's really important. House Committee on Economic Development and Technology, chaired by Hawai'i Island member Gregor Iligan. And Chris Todd serves on that, another Hawai'i Island member. Next slide, please. On Committee on Tourism, Chris Todd serves on there along with Gregor Iligan. And Committee on Labor. And on this one, Janae Capella is our Hawai'i Island member. Next slide, please. Culture and the Arts, Janae Capella, Kona Ka'u representative, is the chair. And then Committee on Legislative Management, which is basically the House leadership. We do not have a Hawai'i Island member on there. But because Judiciary is one of the main committees, I am part of House leadership. And so I'm involved in any of the decisions that are made by the group of 5 that were on that first slide. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is, we're putting together the majority package right now for this session, and we're in final stages of it. This is still preliminary, but I wanted to tell you what we're thinking of at this point. Biosecurity and agriculture is going to be one category of priority, and among the things we're going to be proposing is to improve Hawaii's biosecurity and establish a new deputy director for biosecurity in the Department of Agriculture. We feel it's a top priority that requires more investment and more action. To deal with all the invasive species that we have to deal with, and a very porous border where we're getting lots of invasive species that come in, and we have to deal with them. And I can go into details on that if you'd like to ask questions. Food security. We want to establish and finance a good program, a farm to families program to help alleviate hunger and food shortages. This is farmers being able to sell to food banks to give the food away to our needy in the community. And no shame being needy. Sometimes people just, they lose a job, they can't make ends meet, and they need to go to a food bank. That's okay. Our job is to help everybody out and get them through those tough times so they can come out the other side. Early education. We're going to be prioritizing the hiring of teaching staff for early learning schools and appropriations for equipment and services, trying to expand the publicly funded early childhood education for our community. Childcare costs are among the big drivers for cost of living. So if we can help provide publicly financed early childhood education, that helps a lot. And so that's, but we need to staff these facilities and pay them a livable wage. And so that's part of what we'll be working on here. Affordable housing, we're going to be providing additional funding for mixed income rental housing development. In our community, the biggest barrier to getting our affordable housing projects done is access to water. And so that's an area that's outside of the state legislature's kuleana, but it is something that the Commission on Water Resource Management is integrally involved with. I would encourage you to show up at these meetings, these community meetings that the Commission on Water Resource Management is having, and emphasize the need to figure out how we get this water, so that we can meet the needs of these new affordable housing projects and to provide potable water at an affordable price to the Kailapa neighborhood, which is a Hawaiian homestead community that has never had sufficient water, because they're buying water from the Kohala Ranch Water Company at a rate that is higher than anybody else, and they can be cut off at very short notice, and it's just not fair. And so, so anyway, there's a number of communities that really need water that are, I mean, they're already here, Kailapa, and new projects, affordable housing projects that we want to support. Next slide. Okay, thanks. Homelessness. The governor is taking all of our various homelessness initiatives and the Ohana Zones initiative that we have started over the years, and all combining them all under his program called Kauhale. So it's not just the transitional housing that was started as his Kauhale project. Now it's everything. And so we're going to try to help organize this and provide financial support for this, so that we can help to address the needs of our homeless and houseless community. And so it's not just a special fund, but also to help to define what this is and work with our administration, with the Green administration, in moving forward on these projects. Cesspool closure is a huge issue, very costly for individual homeowners. And I've been pushing for providing additional funding to provide grants to homeowners so that they can be able to transition over to a better wastewater facility. But as Councilman Hustis has said, it's really a partnership between the state and the county to come up with funding to pay for the sewer system and the centralized wastewater treatment systems that we need, especially in areas that are really close to the shoreline or close to underground aquifers or wells. Those are the ones that are at high risk, and cesspools really need to be converted. And so, but we need to assist people in doing that. So we've got some ideas on how to do that, and we look to provide additional funding to assist homeowners in the transition from cesspools. And I say selected islands here. I've been advocating to make sure that Hawai'i Island is one of those selected, and Kauai being the other one. Next, public safety. We need to help folks who have been incarcerated get back into the community in a way that is productive. And we need to support reentry programs to help people do that. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in second chances and redemption. And people make mistakes and they paid the price of being incarcerated. We need to help them back in our community. And this is one way to do it. I've got some other proposals that I'm working on in my committee, but this is one in the majority package. Historic preservation. For so many projects, the requirement to get approval of the State Historic Preservation Division delays projects interminably. And it really can be a problem. They need some more support, and they need to be able to do their job better and not delay projects unreasonably. So we're going to be focusing on some reform within SHPD, the State Historic Preservation Division. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs package. This is the committee I chair. And this is a high level sort of discussion of a presentation of my priorities, because I don't have a lot of time. My responsibilities in terms of the agency's budgets are on the left column there. The judiciary branch budget, this is the entire judiciary branch, right? We have 3 branches of government: judiciary, legislative, executive. My committee is responsible for the judiciary budget. And there's a lot of priorities in there, including a new district judge in Kona and support staff there, including funding to do planning and design for a new South Kohala District Court complex up here. If you've ever had to go to court here, it's in very bad shape, and doesn't even have sufficient resources and facilities to handle the court cases that they have there. And so we need to improve it. The Attorney General's budget, we're working on that. That's my responsibility as well, and so that's going to be something I'll be doing. We get presented the budget. I'm responsible for providing input to the finance committee so that they can move forward with it's the operational budget and the capital improvement project budget. So I'm responsible for both of those. Camping Spending Commission, they've got a number of proposed bills that they've got coming forward. We'll be having hearings on those. The Ethics Commission is also an affiliate of my committee. We'll be having hearings on all of those bills. On the right side are just some of the areas that I'll be introducing some bills, other members introducing bills, and we'll be having hearings on these. Criminal justice reform, I discussed that in a little bit, but also we'll be including some other things just to try to help address some of these issues about pretrial detention. We have too many people in jail that are awaiting trial, and some of them shouldn't be in there. It's too expensive for the state to have to house them in there. It'd be better if we release them and just make sure that we've got the leverage to make sure they show up at court. But some people are in pretrial detention because they can't afford a very low bail because they just don't have the money. And so we're basically criminalizing poverty, and that's just not fair. So another thing, improved access to public records. So we're gonna have a number of measures to do that. I'm a firm believer in transparency. Policing, the state does have some responsibility for policing policy, even though the counties run the police department. We have a Department of Law Enforcement, and I'm trying to make sure that we support our police so that they can be healthy and carry out their work. Expungement and record clearance, I can tell you more about that if you're interested. Cannabis policy, we've got some significant issues with the medical cannabis industry, which is a legal industry that's been operating for some time. We have companies here in Waimea that are involved with that. The hemp industry is telling me that, you know, the recent rules from the Department of Health have basically killed the industry. And so they're very upset about it. And then there's a real interest in the public to look at legalizing adult use of cannabis. But we have to, if we're gonna do it, we've got to do it in a way that protects public safety. It keeps cannabis out of the hands of minors, and that we address the issues of impaired driving. And I know it's a controversial issue. My job is to figure out, if we do this, what's the best way to do it to protect public safety and public health. Firearms, there will be a number of measures related to firearms, you know, and I can go into detail if you're interested, and fireworks. There's a recommendation from the Illegal Fireworks Task Force, and so I'll be looking to try to meet those recommendations. Next slide, please. These are the two agencies in Hawaiian Affairs that I'm responsible for their budgets, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Each of them also have a package of bills, and so we'll be considering those measures. Next slide, please. Capital improvement projects, real quick. These are the capital improvement projects that I was able to bring in with Senator Richards in 2024, Kohala Hospital funding, the new Waikoloa Public Library, total of 21 million to get that library built. Kauai Commercial Harbor, total of 30 million to improve that, and Saddle Road Extension, 3 million to do the final EIS for that one. So we can get it on the defense access road list and get some federal funding to make that happen, and then the state would put up some money with that. Let's go to the next slide, which is my 2025 priorities. Pololu Trailhead, 2 million for design and construction for improvements to that trailhead on a donated private parcel, the old mule station. And Kohala High School Gymnasium, 37 million, very expensive, 37 million for construction of a new gymnasium. Waimea Emergency Shelter, that should be 10 million, not 5 million, after negotiations with our good council members that they're gonna go for 2 million and the state will go for 10 million, because that's usually the deal. The county puts up 20%, and if we can get funding, then we'll put up 10 million. So I'm planning to ask for 10 million for that. And the South Kohala District Courthouse, I mentioned that, 4 million for planning and design. Next slide, please. Please participate. Here's the contacts, public access room, the legislative website. It's easy, use it. Just sign up for an account. You can track legislation. You can submit testimony easily online. Next slide, please. And here's how to contact me. And please sign up for my newsletter. I send it out every couple of weeks. And I'm very grateful to be able to work for you and look forward to working with you this session so we can accomplish good things. And I'm here to respond to questions. Thank you. Oh, 19 minutes, 44 seconds. Just David didn't give me the stop sign, so I'm okay.
Dragging off, but we're also going to postpone questions because we have We're running late. So we're gonna let Tim do his piece and then we'll do a few questions. Yeah, thank you. So Senator Richards, it's all yours.
Yeah, I've got a PowerPoint coming up here. And that's, I'll keep watching the clock as we get going here. And we are, okay, there we go. First of all, aloha. That's the big island, and Oahu just doesn't get it. Anyway, one of the things that both my colleagues here and Heather on the mainland touched on, this is collaborative. County, state, and then also federal. We have to interact with our federal people. And so with that, we don't get anything done unless we're working up and down the food chain. And that's why having an interaction with our council members, with our representative, with our federal people, that's what makes this stuff work. And that's what we work on. So with that, I'm going to go through things. David, Peptine has touched on a lot of things. And yes, we collaborate a lot. It works out a lot better if both of us are supporting something in that square building on Oahu. And so that's how we get to move the needle. So let's get going. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna touch on how I'm approaching things, and a little bit different because we're not, thing to read, but anyway, the way I approach things is I look at the numbers, and if you understand the numbers, then you understand where my thought process comes from. I'm just gonna run through this stuff real quick, because I know we are short on time. Patty promised me in an hour and a half, and that's just anyway. US GDP, 27 trillion, federal budget, 6 trillion, or about 20% of our national GDP. The USDA budget's 995 billion, or about 3%. Next slide. Taking to the state, our state budget is, GDP is about 95 billion. Our state budget is about 20%, or about 19 billion. Our DOA budget is 60 million, or 0.3%, 1/10. That's a problem. Next slide. Went through and we can talk about the county GDP, 13 billion. These are a little bit out of date numbers, but just throwing this up so we can put things in context. Next slide. I look at GDP from agriculture, and I got elected to first the council and then the Senate for agriculture. And so my passion is agriculture, but everything falls into that. I want to talk about that. The GDP of our nation from agriculture is less than 1%. So nationally, if agriculture disappeared out of our economy, we'd never notice. Except literally we would starve to death. And that's how we value agriculture. This is a problem we're facing, not just in our county, in our state, in our nation. We don't know how to value this. And this stacks up on against some of the other countries. Next slide. Here's an interesting thing. Hawaii's GDP from agriculture is a little bit bigger than the nation. This county is bigger yet. We have about 4% of our GDP comes from agriculture. Next slide. Land use, very important. This all starts tying into what David was talking about. How do we use lands in the US? And the map on the left and right are the same, except the one on the right puts it all together. Next slide. A little bit closer look. You can see the yellow is pasture and range. Green is forest, cropland is brown, special use is blue, miscellaneous is gray, and then urban is urban. That's what it looks like you start putting it together. The next slide just tells you a little bit more information. National use versus the state use. When it comes to pasture and range, national is 34%. Hawaii is about 20%. Okay, we're in par. Forest conservation, this is an interesting one. Nationally, about 25%. Our state, we're about 50% in forests already. We do a very good job stewarding our forests. And this is where I argue we don't need more forests. We have to take better care of what we have. Cropland, 20% versus 3% makes sense because we don't have a lot of cropland here. Urban, about the same. And special use is a little bit different because in special use, we have a lot of golf courses, but also the military. And that's why those numbers are skewed a little bit. Next slide. This puts in context of what we're talking about. We have 4 million acres in the state. DLNR takes care of about 1 million. DOA, Department of Agriculture, influences or works with about 800,000 acres. So almost half of our state land mass is managed by those two departments. Next slide. And look at their budgets. Combined budgets is 1.4% of our state budget for managing half of the land mass. Now, Grant, we have a lot of public services and things like that, I get it, but to the point, Dave, Rep. Tarnas talked about this. We look at DLNR, we are underfunding these things, and we're not gonna go forward unless we pay attention to this. Next slide. So this is where my thought process starts when I start talking about legislation and priorities. Next slide. We talk about food and the importance for food security, food self-reliance. What do we need in our state? We eat about 5 pounds of food a day. That means our state needs 7 million pounds of food a day, not including tourists. Add about 25% to that if we want to include tourists. Next slide. Total annually for our state is over 3 billion pounds of food. Right now we're importing 90%. Next slide. These are just the top 20 commodities. We can see cattle stacks in there about number 2. The seed crops are number 1. We got taro in there. Long story short, we're about $500 million of that $95 billion comes from the top 20. Total agriculture production is about 800 million, somewhere in that ballpark. Next slide. Real quick on the different commodities. Tomatoes, we grow about 20% of what we consume. Next slide. Cucumbers, this is an interesting one. We grow about 80% of what we consume, and our keiki cucumbers here in Waimea actually grow 1% of the national production of cucumbers. Yeah, we gotta pat them on the back. Next slide. Taro, we only grow about 50% of what we consume. And to me, culturally, we gotta change that. Big Island, we only have about 70 acres in taro. Next slide. Sweet potato, we grow again about that. You know, it's kind of interesting. It's about that 80-20 deal. We grow about 80%, we import 20%. Next slide. Production for beef. This is a little goofy one because we export so many of the calves. Right now, we only produce 7% of what we're consuming. Big Island's a little different. If we kept all the cattle here, we would be producing twice as much as what we could consume. Statewide, we can increase our production if we keep it all here, but there's a problem. This is where policy. Next slide. Pork, we only produce about 1.7%, 4% in 2008. And we need 71 million pounds of pork a year. Next slide. Chickens, we need 25 million chickens a year to supply what we're currently using now. And right now we produce about 10%. Next slide. Eggs. We eat 1 million eggs a day in this state. We produce 200,000. We're right about 20% right now. Next slide. So what do we need to do? People say that's depressing. I said, no, for me, that's all market opportunity. We have an opportunity to expand agriculture, but we got to get good policy. So what do we need? Next slide. First of all, land access and tenure. Rep. Tarnas was talking about that. He wanted to be land and water. I wanted him to be land and water. David and I worked together on this kind of stuff, but there's a funny one on that one coming up. I'll share with you. We're gonna have access to land and tenure. We also have access to water and tenure. People do not understand, next slide, what it takes to irrigate land. They think they know, but they don't. 1 inch of rain on 1 acre is 27,000 gallons. Our irrigation projects pale compared to what Mother Nature can do. 50 inches a year of rain, which is the average crop production rainfall needed for most crops, just for planting, translates to about 1.3 million gallons of water a year per acre. With 50 inches of rain a year. And so we have to think about when we start talking about infrastructure. Next slide. So what do we need? I keep saying infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Rep. Tarnas has talked about this. We need it for transportation. We have to get our crops from here to the market, which is primarily a Oahu. We're talking about the horror stories on that. Value adding, it's not just growing this stuff. We have to process it, whatever that means. If it's livestock, we have to slaughter and wrap. If it's vegetables, we have to pack it and keep chilled as we get to the market. If we don't have the infrastructure, the shelf life goes way down and we run into problems. Also, we're seeing the crossover, housing. We talked about, Rep. Tarnas talked about the early childhood education development. This is all workforce development, which is all housing. Every cowboy and every farmer has kids. So this all starts tying all together. Next slide. I'm lazy. Only read the yellow stuff, okay? If you read the highlights, we'll get through this relatively quick. Some of my priorities for this year is agriculture crimes. That's the big one. You see the top one here, Cranston Pia. He was the rancher that was murdered last March in the Waimea area. It was a problem because of trespass, and we don't take the agriculture crime seriously enough. This takes nothing away from our police force. We have to give them better tools and better help to get it done. And so we're working on a bunch of different things to do that. In part of this Cranston Pia law is a stand your ground law. A tragic story, and I can explain it later. But the long story short, he had no way to defend himself legally. Next slide. We're also working on ag crime bills, and there's several versions of this. Senator DeCoite and I are championing this as far as going after a law enforcement entity to go after agriculture problems. That includes trespass, that includes vandalism, that includes theft. And if we have a focal entity to actually go after that, then we can focus on that. Our police force, they don't have enough resources right now. Next slide. Also, we have these ag crime versions coming through, and I'm not sure what it's going to be, whether it's an ag commission or an ag council, that some sort of entity. There's several versions coming through, as Rep. Tarnas talked about it. We have many versions coming through, but they're all coming together. And ultimately, what usually happens is we combine these bills, take the best out of the different bills to get what we're trying to get to. And again, what we want is an entity that can enforce the law, but then the judiciary ramp it up for penalties. Trespass, right now the laws say may include jail time. It's going to change to shall include jail time, because we have to really take a hard stance on that. Agriculture is taking it in the shorts all the time because of theft, vandalism, et cetera, and that just reduces our overall ability to produce food for all of the community. Next slide. I'm getting out of time here for right at 7, almost 12. Like I said, we have several different versions coming through on this ag bill. And personally, I've got one, the Department of Law Enforcement has one, the Attorney General has one. Ultimately, we're gonna put them all together and just come out with a good bill on the other end. Next slide. Some of the other things I'm working on, the dam safety issue, and this gets back to infrastructure. Dylan went down a rabbit hole that I don't think is the right way. If we want agriculture, we talked about the dam up here. There's a dam safety law in the books that is too far reaching because their expectation is too far. And I can talk about it if someone's curious about specifically what I'm working on, but we have to reevaluate how we're looking at these dams. It's overreaching, and the problem is it's going to destroy agriculture. Dale Norris' position is, let's just take all the dams down. I got my 5-minute warning. Define bona fide agriculture. Here in the County of Hawaii, we're trying to figure that out right now. And for agriculture, what is true agriculture? We've had some definitions of talking about X number of $1,000 in gross revenues, things like that. Okay, that's fine, but we have subsistence farming and ranching going on, and that is bona fide agriculture. The reason to do that is get a unified definition that we can use statewide, and that will help the counties. Next slide. Ag tourism, again, let's get a unified definition. agriculture does better if they have an income stream from different, avenues. Yes, our agriculture commodity, but also tourism. We need to teach the public that good agriculture is good for the community, but they don't understand it. We have less than 2% of our nation comes from agriculture, so we have to teach them. And then water infrastructure, we can't have agriculture without water, so I want to study on that. Next one. And transportation infrastructure, again, what we need on the piers and ports to get things done. And that's coming forward. I was talking to Director Ed Sloan today about that. Getting the statistics back online so we know what we need, and a slaughterhouse bill. Evaluate what we need to expand the overall production for livestock. Next slide. And then one of the things that Dave and I both share, he's chair of Hawaiian Affairs in the House. I am the chair of Hawaiian Affairs in the Senate. So we will be working on that, and it is near and dear to my heart. Introducing legislation for housing and for water infrastructure for Hawaiian homes. And again, like Dave said, we're both responsible for those budgets and direction. Next slide. I think we're there. Just throwing this up here, some of you have seen this before. This is the problem at the legislature or at county council. We have these different entities that have animals for agriculture, animal, plant, ornamental. And we have to see where we cross-pollinate and confine this synergy. As we're working on policy, and this could say agriculture and tourism and manufacturing, we could change the names. But when you get into the political process, next slide, you get these shadows that go over the stuff. And I was going, you can have emotions that cloud the issue and common sense, I almost put lack of common sense. Because this is the problem that James will face, that Dave will face, and I will face, and we'll all face it together. So with that, I think that's Paul. Next one. Yeah, that's Paul. Questions? This year I am serving on 4 committees. I chair Hawaiian Affairs. I am vice chair of Agriculture and Environment. I serve on Commerce and Consumer Protection. We have a brand new committee that I've been asked to join, which is Energy and Intergovernmental Affairs. So with that, it's not gonna yell at me, I just stay quiet.
I want to thank all of our speakers, and we have time for some questions. I'm going to go with one question first that someone submitted online, and so this was from Thomas online, and this really dovetails nicely with what you just spoke about, Senator Richards. So thank you, Thomas. There are agricultural neighborhoods on the Hamakua coast with acres upon acres of unmanaged grasses. Could it be considered in the 2025 legislative session to set aside monies to mitigate this fire hazard? Is it the attitude of our legislators to be proactive or reactive to the needs of fire prevention?
Short answer is proactive. And this is part of the problem. For the most part, Big Island is different. The neighbor islands are a little bit different. For agriculture, if you talk to someone downtown Honolulu, they talk about a 5-year lease and they go, wow, it's a long lease. In agriculture, don't waste our time. And this is the problem. So the specific answer on that one is what we need to do is focus on getting funding for that infrastructure. And fencing in part is infrastructure. Water infrastructure is also part of that, because if we can work on that, then we can get these lands fenced and then grazed, and it's a fire mitigation plan as well.
And just to add on to that, the state has a lot of land, as the Senator had pointed out, and the DLNR has a lot of land that needs to be better managed, so that we don't have the invasive grasses that are dry and are just fine fuels they'll catch. So we've got a responsibility for public lands and managing them better, and that's certainly a priority for us in the House, in the legislature.
Thank you. All right, hands, Auntie.
I want to go on hospital. Before you do can you change the name? I come from a Hawaiian family, and I asked permission to Kohala Senior. They said, go right ahead. And this is what came to me. Spiritually. Jingle me the first medical facility in North Kohala. When this came to me, I'm sitting in my car at Kohala. I work there. I'm a nurse there. And spiritually it came to me. And I said, why me? I come from another area. But they picked me
Yeah.
Because I want to be a really BITC, but it comes from here.
No,
Please,
mahalo.
people, it's wonderful. We care for LTC, that's my passion, elderly people, no matter
So-
where. And wait. ER, they come from all over, the therapy, they come not from staying there or operation, we don't have, but we're gonna make one. But I wanna change the name to King Kamehameha First. Medical facility. What?
Mahalo, sister. And for those who can't hear, online, sister's asking about Kohala Hospital, we need support for it, and also renaming it King Kamehameha First Medical Center, medical facility. The facility there, it's a wonderful facility, with wonderful, people working there. We were able to get some funding last time around for a new administration building and a CT scan building. But you know, one of the cool things about it is this guy was born there, so I'm gonna give it to Senator Richards. And his mom was a nurse there. Yeah, sorry, Senator Richards.
You know, that is a really good idea, and yes, full disclosure, I was born there. People said when, I said when air conditioning was screened on the windows. That's when I was born. But that's actually a very thoughtful idea. It's more complicated than just saying yes, but this is a really good idea. And we got a tough story. And start the ball rolling, because I agree. Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go all the way in the back, right there. I was gonna, so, black shirt and then we'll go teal shirt.
So,
Yes, and I'll repeat the question.
okay, so, perhaps I missed it, but there's very little about education in here. Yet the New York Times just put Hawaii is bottom for education. So I'm wondering what our speakers think the direction should be to give Hawaii a better education.
All right, so the question is, the education system in Hawaii, what are the educational priorities that you, both have?
For our community, you know, at the Kohala High School, Kohala Middle, Kohala Elementary, and then Waimea, Elementary, Waimea Middle, are and Waikoloa, we have, elementary and middle. Our kids here go to, Honoka High School or Kealakea High School. So, you know, my top priority for me is to, meet the needs of our facilities here. They're old facilities, they need help. Senator can speak to this as well, because he's been, as I have, talked to the principals, asked them what they need, and do our best to get the kind of support they need. We talk to the teachers, as well as the administrators, and make sure that we do our best to pay, better salaries for the teachers, and give additional, salary, boosts to those who are teaching in our schools, because they're hard to staff in our rural schools here. So we do our best to do just that. And I want to mention Kanuokaina as well, because they're a public charter school. And so, you know, both Senator Richards and I do our best to get capital improvement project funding, whether it's for the kitchen at Kanuokaina, master plan for the campus at Waimea Middle and Elementary, new public library in Waikoloa. There's a lot of needs. We do our best to try to meet them. System-wide, there's other things that certainly we could be doing. I don't serve on the education committee, but I'm very much supportive of it. I used to be vice chair of education years ago, but I'm very much still involved with it. I've spoken enough. Back to you, Senator.
Okay, thanks, Rep. We need to have a coordinated advancement of the students, meaning preschool to kindergarten to elementary to intermediate to high school. And so it's coordinated, so we keep advancing rather than shift. That's one thing. Rep talked about the aging infrastructure. That's a problem. It was actually December 23rd. I had the superintendent Keith Hayashi here in Waimea, and we were looking specifically at what we can do here, but also building teacher housing, because we can't have schools without teachers. We can't have teachers without housing. So this is part of the problem, which all holds back to the priorities that we're talking about. What can we do about it? Well, we have to do the DOE is a $2 billion department in our state. It's huge. Should more local oversight be there? This is the conversation we're having right now, and that's what the charter schools are attempting at this point. So it's not an easy answer right now, but it's good thought.
It was the New York Times for Hawaii as the dumbest state, you know. In their recent article, Hawaii was the bottom. And it's, you know, if there's anything, the goal should be to move up at least in one place, if not 10 places.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. And then Auntie in the teal there.
Address the fireworks, it was like a World War III, this past, New Year's Eve, it is only gonna get worse. And we are gonna look at fire or death, apparently Rhodes, I don't know if he was a representative or a senator, but he introduced 2 bills in 23 and 24 to increase, oversight down at the ports. How are you addressing that increase?
So I'm just gonna repeat the question. Fireworks. It came up during the police. It was a question that was submitted, so fireworks.
So what you're asking about is more oversight or more inspection of the freight coming in. How are we gonna deal with that? This is where that synergy, and that's why we talk about things that we start getting that, again, cross-pollination. We have to review more of the import to see where there's illegal things coming in. And this can be done, I am told, with dogs, that we can accomplish something there. But we also have a large initiative for biosecurity using dogs. And the idea is that since we're gonna be looking for biosecurity, things coming in from the biosecurity side, why don't we do the same thing and look at it from the explosive side? So again, our cost per exam or inspection is going down because we get some crossover there. So that actually has been recently talked about. Well, I mean, what is this, the 9th today? We've actually started talking about that this week. We've been talking about biosecurity for the last year and a half. But we're saying, this may be a way to solve some of that. It's not gonna be complete, but this is the first swing at it.
Thanks for that question. The illegal fireworks task force, was created by the legislature, and, I think it has been successful. It's a, state, federal, county task force specifically looking to interdict imports of these illegal aerial fireworks and explosives. And they have confiscated over 100 tons of illegal fireworks coming into the state. Clearly, there's more that is getting through. It's a big market. People are very willing to buy illegal fireworks. And our prosecuting attorney in Honolulu said, he was asked, why aren't you prosecuting more? Why doesn't it go all the way through so that they get sentences? And it's because he said, we can't get neighbors to testify against their next door neighbor. We passed a law that allowed as evidence video and photographs. And so those do get submitted to the police. But the prosecutors say, I still need to have the person who took the photograph testify this is real and this happened on this date. And Steve Ballman is saying, can't get anyone to do it. So that's a problem. So I think that we do need to focus even more on cutting supply. And so the Department of Law Enforcement has, in the Illegal Fireworks Task Force report, they have recommendations. The Department of Law Enforcement is the agency in the state that manages it. They would like to create and fund a dedicated explosives unit with 5 full-time investigators. Right now, they're using a couple of narcotics investigators part-time. And so they need full-time investigators, plus some assistants to help them out. They also want to expand the forensics lab so they can do analysis of explosives in-state. And that's going to cost money. And they also are interested not only using dogs, but also technology, scanners that are capable of detecting fireworks in containers. But I want you to understand, it's a shock to learn that it's not just coming in through our seaports, it's on the airplanes. Yes, these are fireworks and explosives being brought in by mail, by FedEx and all, on airplanes. So it has to be a full court press. We need to involve the federal agencies because they have actually a lot more authority to, inspect than the state does. This illegal fireworks task force does have both federal and state involvement as well as county. And so I think that's where I would like to focus. There's going to be a number of different measures relating to fireworks coming out of the House and Senate. It is a priority. The tragedy that happened on Oahu certainly is motivating us to take action.
All right, so we're gonna go with one more question, but I believe both gentlemen are willing to stay around a little bit longer and take the questions individually. So one more, bear with us. We're gonna go with this gentleman right here.
Bob Yuki, Waikoloa Road. What's happening in LA now is a reminder of how severe our fire risk is on this side of the island. And your capital budget list you had on screen did not include the intersection for the emergency access road from the north end of the village that we desperately need. And would you give us an update on where that stands? Because the governor promised us that intersection.
So just to repeat the question back, this is a question about the fire road in Waikoloa, and both gentlemen want to speak about it.
And I think everyone's looking at it as a second access road, not just an emergency egress road, but a second access road that would go into Waikoloa, because it is a huge cul-de-sac. And everyone there is at risk if the road is blocked and they need to evacuate. So the governor and the head of the Department of Transportation in the state has said that the state would be willing to pay for the planning, design, and construction of the intersection of this new road with Queen Kahumanu Highway. And at the groundbreaking, I spoke and said, I would be willing to request funding for it, but I don't want to get ahead of the rest of the project because the project needs to be moving for us to spend the money for that intersection. So I looked, and this is a project that really won't end up being a state road, it will end up being a county road. So the county administration really needs to take the lead. And that's the new administration needs to take the lead. If they are looking to have private developers pay for it, there's a number of developers that are building housing at the end of Paniolo there. The county has the authority to do that. They didn't make the deal way back when the entitlements were passed. So this is a challenge for the counties to compel those developers to do it. But there is some willingness of those developers to do it. The county is the one that can actually compel them or strike a deal for them to do it. If the county says, yes, we are willing to move forward and this project is real, the funding is there, we're gonna make it happen. And the director of transportation, Ed Sniffen in the state says, yes, we are ready to move forward and request the money, I'll request the money. I have not gotten a response from the Department of Transportation when I inquired of them just, 6 weeks ago and just recently, are we ready to ask for that money? And if so, how much for planning and design? If he says yes, I'll put the request in there, but so far it's not there. And so, that's where I think the administration needs to step up. I know our council member is very aware of this, and I know that he's gonna be working to try to make that happen, but that's why it's not on the list right yet. Because I said, I'm not gonna get ahead of the county and the road builders on this one. Let me give this back to Senator Richard so you can comment on it.
Ed Sniffen, DOT has committed to that, and that intersection will not stop the hooking in, but that road will be a county road, private county funded. There'll be some probably STID money that helps out with it, but the intersection will not be the delay in getting that hooked up. Building the road is the delay. And so I know that's gonna be a thing, and just on the fire bridge that you saw DOT put in, DOT is also committed to maintaining those. They're budgeting $20 million. I don't know if you've seen that, to maintain all of the fire breaks that they put in this last year. So they will be doing the maintenance going forward on that for the short term. That's not the full answer long term that you asked, but that's a step in the right direction.
Great, thank you. Let's give our speakers another round of applause. Sorry. We appreciate all of your support. Thank you for being in here. Thank you for hanging in longer. It's important to have the opportunity to talk to members of our legislature and our elected officials. So we wanna, have everyone drive home safely. We will see you back here on February 6th at the Keck Observatory to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Makali'i voyaging canoe. And so that'll be a very special meeting, and that will be held 5:30 to 7, February 6th, here at the Keck Observatory Conference Room. So mahalo everybody for joining us this evening.
But no, I wanna catch you up. So you got my emails. Just in case you missed it.